Well, good morning. It is Saturday morning. It's getting to be sunny out. It's 5 to 10 here in Wales, in the United Kingdom. And I've been awake for quite a while, but I couldn't get my backside working really. I was hoping I'd get back to sleep because I haven't had much sleep yet again. But anyway, to art. And then I'll bitter as I art. You might recognise, if you've seen my video or my blog posts, my social media posts from yesterday, the top two sort of like weird fish. But I've done something to one, I've started doing something to the other. I'll come back to that one. This third one I drew last night after I finally had a nap to get rid of the headache that I had yesterday morning that plagued me all day. It just would not go. It's one of those that needs to be slept off. Whether it's a migraine or a migraine type or something similar, I don't know, but painkillers weren't touching it, so therefore sleep was needed. And I did, I slept, and I woke up and I thought, oh gosh, my head's clear. I just hope it doesn't happen to me again today. Anyway, so these two fish at the top yesterday, I'd coloured with watercolour. And this middle one is still mostly watercolour. You can see down here, up here, and in a couple of other places, the colours look a bit deeper and brighter. That's because I've been adding colour with different media. The top one I did with some Colorsoft coloured pencils from Derwent, and they basically more or less, I don't think they completely covered the watercolour. What I think they've done is the watercolour underneath has added tones to it, because they are quite opaque, but they're not totally opaque, and I didn't put a thick layer down, though I did use a burnisher or a blender on them to try to get the colours to blend a bit more, but much more vibrant than this quite insipid looking fish, which is nice, but I like bright colours. And the one at the bottom I drew because I could, because I had space that needed filling in, and no doubt I'll find other things that I can fill the space in with, brushing away a bit of eraser there, because for this one, these I just started and I drew and saw how the shape grew. This one I did draw in a pencil shape of a kind of fish shape I'd like, and it's worked okay, but it didn't feel quite as natural to me or as organic as the others, but it's okay. The green here is supposed to be his frowny mouth, but the mouth doesn't really show up. So these ones, no watercolour, just Inktense pencils, and that's what I used here to add some more colour to this one. Inktense pencils are lovely because they are both pretty transparent in the whole, but they're also permanent. So when you put them down, you move them with water, you let them dry, they don't react again. And that means you can layer colours and intensify colours a little at a time, which kind of suits me. So thought while I chat perhaps this morning a little bit, I'll try and explain what I'm doing, how I'm doing it, the colours I'm using. I can't remember the names of the colours of the watercolours I used, but one was sort of like I think it's an Indian red or red, which is a red-brown colour, almost a rusty colour. There was a goldeny brown, and then a darker brown, and I used a grey, indigo blue, turquoise blue, and gamboge, which is the yellowy colour, which has got a hint of orange in it and a hint of green. It's a strange colour, I like it a lot. It depends which colour comes out, depending on how much pigment, how strong the pigment is in the water, how strong the watercolour is in the water, I should say. So I'm going to carry on with this particular delightful fish here. Now Inktense don't have a turquoise, well they do have a turquoise colour, and I was firtling around last night for one. I'll show you this, because I have made yet another colour chart for Inktense. I do them and then I can't find them. So beautiful bright colours, but also lovely rich colours as well, but they fade out and they can stick to the paper a bit, so especially if you don't let it dry completely before you add the next layer. But I was hunting around really. I want that dark, either the dark or the green aquamarine. So, oh, look at that, green aquamarine. I got it straight off the bat. It's unusual for me. But I just want to add some here and perhaps I think I did get the sherbet lemon out. There is a kind of a yellowy green and apple green, but it's just a bit too much green, whereas I think this would work quite nicely. I'm not putting a lot of the colour down. Fresh water, my favourite size 2 brush. If you're interested, it's a Pro Art Series 107 spotter. I explained yesterday I like these because they've got shorter hairs on them, which is springy, and I like that springiness. That's worked quite nicely, though I think the blue aquamarine might have, actually no, I think it's worked out just fine. And the sherbet lemon is quite a bright lemon. It's got a hint of green in it, just a little hint, so it should blend quite nicely up into that and just intensify that yellowish colour here and across the green watercolour. Because I spent all that time watercolouring, I don't want to obscure it all, although I must probably have in the top one, but that's fine. It's all experimenting and it's all trying things out and learning. And I think here you can see the difference it's made, because this area and this area were pretty similar. You can see how much just that little bit of extra colour has added. The other thing I can do with these is to use a damp brush and just pick some of the pigment up off the lead, the core, and then use that a bit like watercolour just to spread that colour so I can blend it just that little bit more easily. That's nicer. It does, it's a different green to what was there originally, but I quite like that. So let's go here. If I'm picking colour up with the water brush from the core of the pencil, I try to make sure I do it closer to the wood so that I'm not putting wet Inktense down on dry paper, because by the time I've fuss-arsed about with water and stuff, you can guarantee it'll have dried, and then I'll end up with a blob that's just too dark for my wishes and desires, really. That's nice. That's even darker than the other one, but I am going to add some yellow here. I really don't mind the variation a little bit, because I can always go back with some more of this if I want on that first area I did. In fact, I think I may very well do just that. Just picking some up on the brush tip and then adding it so I can get that slightly darker colour there. I don't know if you remember what it looked like to begin with. It's like this, but you can see the difference in that intensity. On the camera it looks almost like it's really, really brightening your face, but actually it's not quite that bright, it's a bit more subtle. It's the problem of using technology, I suppose, to try to take photographs and whatever. I haven't got the skills or the understanding really to adjust. I must probably have to adjust my scanner, so if I scan these in, which I'm likely to do actually, at some point in time today, once I finish them. Actually, it doesn't matter if I finish them or not, but when I finish doing this, I'll scan them in, and I've then got the line art, albeit with colour, that I can use to redraw digitally. And there's something I'm quite keen to try on my on the Clip Studio Paint Pro, because it has a vector tool, vector drawing tool, and I haven't done much in the way of vector art per se, because I do admire people who do vector art, because it's beautiful how you use simple shapes and colours and gradients to create really rich and interesting images. But I've sometimes thought about trying it, and I think I'm forever looking for the next thing, and rather than being happy and comfortable with what I do well, perhaps, and developing that a bit further and seeing where I go with it. I don't know. Perhaps I think it's my eternal life story of being sort of like almost an eternal student and wanting to try new and different things, which doesn't include necessarily travelling very far or going out, but there's a whole world inside one's head that one can explore. You can see the difference that's made. So this is making me consider now about whether it was worth me actually buying watercolour paints, or whether I should have gone, Angela, you're not going to get on with them. And common sense now, as I talk and think here, says I really should have gone for tubes, because it's so easy to get such intense colours from paint that's in tubes, and that perhaps should have been something I should have really stopped and thought about. Ho hum, such is life. But I've got another set of watercolours for my collection, and if I don't use them much, then they will get destashed and they will go to somebody who will use them. It's one of those lessons, another big sticky note to put up with the ones that I still haven't put up, which I can't remember what I said I was going to do anyway. So this colour under here became quite mucky, and I don't quite know why. Sometimes that happens, so I can actually use the Inktense to both intensify it and also to clean it up a bit, I think. So I'm going to spread this green out, and then once it's dry, I'll come back and add some of that sherbet lemon, just to add that yellowy touch underneath. So I really do think that's needed here. I'm trying to narrow down what media I really like, and Inktense I always have, and they are these lovely bright colours that make my heart sing. But they also have, they can be muted. You can use a little bit and get that softer pastel-y colour, but then you can also blend them to create others, more muted colours. So I've yet to play really with that. I need to make a huge colour chart where I create little swatches of each colour mixed with each other, so I can see what kinds of colours we get when they're mixed. And just see how I can make a particular colour. Try and work it out. That is much deeper than those two. You can see as it dries, it does become paler as well. The water seems to intensify the colours, but that's no big problem, because I can always add more. Again, another layer. I think part of it is that as I get bolder with these, as I use more, I tend to get a bit bolder, as in confident. I do want some, definitely need some yellow under here. I've added quite a lot there. We'll see what happens as it dries back. Is this dry? Yeah. When paper's wet, it feels cool to the touch, even if it's damp. So I definitely need to add some more of this. Neighbour saying hello to somebody's child, or I expect neighbours a couple of doors down have been babysitting their granddaughter overnight, so if you hear them, that's what's going on. Okie dokes. So have I got anywhere up yet? Here. So it is a lovely day here. It's going to be a lovely day. I don't know about temperature wise, but once I've done this, I'm giving myself a permission today to lose myself in some films. I think. Last night I started watching the Harry Potter series of films and started to crochet some squares for a blanket because I really need to use up my squash. I do not know what that word is, but I meant stash. And I keep starting things, but I get fed up. But I quite like how the squares I'm doing are turning out. And they're actually quite quick to do because they're only, I think they're 5 rounds. And they're done with stock yarn, but on a big crochet hook. So, and the fabric, the stitches are really quite soft and springy as well. And it's very light in weight as well. So I do need to remember I'll need some black sock yarn to join them together, which is really, really, really what I want to do because they will end up looking like stained glass panels then. And the yarn I'm using is variegated in various shades of green, from teal to green to a sort of like an olivey colour to a sort of like almost a yellow green. And so as I'm working the squares, the colours are changing, not rapidly, but you know, I might get a little segment that's a different colour, or you see that fade into a different colour, and then you've done your square. It is what it is, you work with it, and it'll be a surprise as to how it ends up, I'm sure. So it'd be quite nice to just do that. But then knowing me, I can't stay away from art for very long. But I think if I get enough of this done today, perhaps I'll manage to get at least some, you know, even if it's just this evening. We'll see. I'm still waiting to hear back from my editor about the sketches I sent through. So I really don't want to do, it's a strange situation because I want to get on with the work, but at the same time I don't want to because I'm waiting for guidance or for the head, you know, say, yeah, we like this, no we don't, we were thinking more about this, so that before I move forward I get that that kind of information that I need to allow me to, yeah, that's all the green done. Right, I shall pop those upside down. I have got other colours I was using yesterday for this one down here, so I'm going to make use of some of them. So I haven't got, there isn't, yes there is a deep indigo actually. Bet you I can't find it because I've got them all. I don't keep things in tins, I'm a nightmare. And I'm one of the first to say that. Bright blue. What's the navy blue like? Do you think I can see navy blue anywhere? Gee, that would do. Yeah. It's so close to the iron blue I've been using that I think I'll stick with iron blue. So yeah, to go back to that, so before I really knuckle down to it and focus on doing, you know, a lot of work for the book, I like to know that I'm in the right direction, and I know that I can get it done by the deadline because that's not an issue. So my closeness of time tends to focus my attention. You know, I've got 6 months before I have to finish a project. Well, I do tend to procrastinate and leave it till closer to the end, but I think that's just how, it's just me. I don't think I'm going to change that particularly. We'll see. So for these darker blue sections here, I'm just using this iron blue, which I really do like. I've got no idea why it's called iron blue, other than it reminds me of some of the blue you sometimes see on rusty iron, or iron that's been heated up. If you heat a knife up in a flame and let it cool, you get all those lovely blue colours. Don't think it's got anything to do with the bluing that is added to steel sometimes to protect it. And things like swords and knives and things like that, or sometimes I seem to remember. But it is quite a nice blue. The indigo is really quite dark grey blue. Oh, I've forgotten where I put that little bit there. But, you know. And I did want to intensify these ones up here just that bit, because they are a bit paler than the ones at the bottom. So yeah, so yesterday was one of those days that was dictated by headache. Today, what I actually end up doing in the day, whether I end up going out for a walk or not, is very much dictated by temperature. It's sunny, so it's going to be sunblock, and there's probably, if I wear short sleeves or whatever, it's going to be a very light shawl around whatever skin is exposed as well, just to protect it from the sun. So my skin's really bad from this week. Hormones and stuff, I think, as well, are playing up. It happens. So all will be fine. And then I think there's just this little area here. I don't know if you can see the difference that's made. You know, it's going to be interesting if I put these side by side with yesterday's scan on my social media posts, if you can see the difference that it makes. The underlying colour is showing through, but it's just lovely to have those more intense colours. So I finished with the blues, I think, so I'll pop that one in that way round. I do want to sharpen this one, which is crimson, because the browns are lovely, but I did want to sharpen that one. And whether, yeah, this one needs sharpening. I know, sounds of sharpening and wobbly. That's perhaps a little bit of. Yeah, there's the big sharpening here. I'll do that one, which is the, oh, sienna gold is so lovely. It's sort of like a yellow orange, or more yellow than orange, but it is really nice. It looks orange, the core, but when water's added, it goes this lovely yellow colour. So I've got that sienna gold, and I will pop some colours I can use. I've got cadmium orange. And I'm using oranges and golds, and I've got mustard here, which is a lovely yellow brown. It's a lovely warm golden brown. There we are. But I also want to add just a touch of crimson in this orange, just here, just to add that extra bit of fire. It looks pretty dull until you add water, and the water is what really does bring these Inktense pencils to life. They are lovely. Oh, everybody's noisy this morning. Everybody's up and chatting and everything in the street, which is lovely. It's been a long time since I've heard much chitter chatter in the streets. Tell people are out and about more, with perhaps with some What words am I looking for? A bit more confidence to be out and about, with COVID about. But in Wales, our First Minister's decided to take a more cautious approach as far as lifting lockdown measures is concerned, to see what happens with the Indian variant, because it's easier to remain as we are than to lift up restrictions that would allow a lot more mixing of people indoors than going backwards. So for a couple more weeks, just to see what happens, because there seem to be mixed reports coming out about how the Delta variant is interacting with vaccines and cases and all kinds of things. So it's nice to have all the data, or a good set of data, to know what is the best to do. It's the worst thing you want is hospitals overloaded with COVID patients, more deaths. We haven't had a death in Wales for a week or more now from COVID, which is fantastic. Obviously, sadly, people will still die, but hopefully COVID is something that we can avoid. I'd like to think so anyway. There we go. So I've chosen pretty similar colour palettes here for all of these fish, because I just think that it will work quite nicely. We need a yellow, or sun yellow. Do I have cadmium yellow? I did have cadmium yellow, but I've put it away because that's cadmium orange. So let me have a look. Is that sun yellow, cadmium? Yes, because I'm going to need yellow for some of these bits. And not that sherbet yellow. I want a warmer yellow here, just in contrast. And I'll use this sienna gold as well. It's the darker tone. I was just starting to drop off back to sleep this morning, just after 8 o'clock. I haven't had much sleep last night again. I had a very broken night's sleep and a very vivid dream. It wasn't a nightmare, but it was incredibly vivid, this dream, that woke me up. And so it took me a while to start to settle to go back to sleep. And I was watching Attack of the Clones. Yeah, I'm a bit of a Star Wars nut, and it's just what I needed this morning. It's just one of those things where that's what I needed, and I go with it. And nothing like a bit of Obi-Wan to start your day, I reckon. But anyway, or Mace Windu. But home phone went, which is unusual, and something made me pick it up, because I don't normally. I usually let it go through to answer phone. And a woman's voice on the end. She said, have I got the right number? Is that Angela? I said, yes, it is. And she said, I haven't spoken to you for such a long time. I'm so glad it is you. I recognise your voice. And I sort of recognised the voice, but my mind just wouldn't dredge it up, as it were. I was going, I know that voice, sort of, but I can't put a name to it. And she said, well, it's been over 35 years, but she said we shared an office. And I said, I know who you are, and said a name. And she said, I said, how could I forget you? It's just, it took me by surprise. Oh, it is early in the morning. I said, just a tad, 8 o'clock. I'm normally up and just about having finished an art video by then, but I was hoping to get a bit more sleep so I didn't fall asleep later today. and then that throws my sleep out for the night sometimes. So it was lovely because we shared an office when we both were doing research for a PhD. She was a year or so ahead of me, but we hit it off, especially as we were basically the two female research students in a department, mainly men. It was a chemical engineering department, and she's the one who's responsible for teaching me how to cook Indian food. I'd always loved Indian food curries before then, but she really taught me, authentic Indian, home Indian cooking. So as much as I love to go out to Indian restaurants and eat, it's not the same because it's restaurant food. It's done for the restaurant market. And sometimes I think I ought to say to them, I said, I'd love tarka dal, but can you make it as if you did at home? And they might look at me as if I've gone bonkers, but I can live with that. And but I've never plucked up the courage to ask yet, but one day I darn well will. I can tell you that much now, because it's there's only one restaurant I've been to where I've had a really, really, really good tarka dal, and that was in Weston-super-Mare. And it was fantastic. No, it wasn't. I lie. It was in Cardiff on Merthyr Roads, as it goes down to Albany Road and City Road, down that way. And it was called the Panama. Oh, and it was to die for. It was so garlicky, and they put the proper tadka in, which is the butter, fried onions and garlic and chilli that's poured in to the dal. Absolutely delicious. And I've never really had one anywhere else like it other than if I make it at home. And mine isn't as good as other people can do, that's for sure. And I think that tarka dal is my favourite of all. It is just, it just does it for me. Especially when it's really oniony and garlicky, which is my favourite. Love garlic. So we had a quick catch up because she found my phone number as she was tidying up, and well, actually having a big clear out, to declutter, something I know I need to do. I'll get round to it eventually. And just within a couple of seconds of realising that each of us were talking to the person we thought we were talking to, it was just like 35 years had vanished. And that's always a sign of a long-lasting friendship. I don't think, we say, so our lives went in different directions. She married, moved away to work, and she got a life of her own, kids and things. I was in a long-term relationship with the long ago ex, and just paths diverged, really. But that's, then something, if you're meant to reconnect, you reconnect. I think she's tried over the years, my mother or whatever, but I don't ever remember having the information. I'm sure my mother would swear that she sent it on to me, but I just don't remember. I don't remember seeing it or having it in any way, shape or form. So that really isn't a surprise to me in any way. But, it's... So we said, well, we'll keep in touch, and if she's ever this way, she'll pop in, or I can go and visit her where she's living now. And that was really, really lovely this morning. I do have to say that. And I mean it genuinely. It was lovely. So when she hung up, I finished watching Star Wars before I got up. It was close to the end of the film anyway. But you know, I like to watch a film all the way through. And I've seen it so often, I was probably in it. Yeah. But it's just one of those days where a bit of escapism and fantasy is needed. By me. For me. And I did enjoy it. So that's all that matters. And I'll no doubt watch the Harry Potter films. And I'm not going to get into the latest controversy surrounding J.K. Rowling. I enjoy stories. And what I'm listening to on Audible, which I can't do at the moment, but I often have Audible on when I'm, an audiobook on while I'm doing art. I'm working my way through the Rivers of London series of books by Ben Aranovich, which are absolutely brilliant. They're really good fun, and again, it's a bit like a grown-up Harry Potter set in the Met Police, in a way. And it's where these magical and everyday worlds intertwine and mix, and that most people are unaware of the more magical elements that surround them. And of course, there's a department in the Met, a secret department called the Folly, that deals with all the cases of, I suppose, magic, for want of a better word, and magical law infringements in the magical worlds that there are. And of course, the title of the series of books, The Rivers of London. That's the first book in the series, but it's known as the Rivers of London series. They have a big part to play as well. But really good fun, really good, thought-provoking, very well researched as well, I do have to say. And just something I just like to listen to. I have the Harry Potter books there. I have many Audible books. Some I still haven't listened to because if they're on offer, or I can, I've actually got 6 credits built up, so there's no rush for me to use them. But as books come out that I'd like to listen to, then I use them for those. And sometimes I prefer to buy books that I can read, the physical books, or in the Kindle version. Some books aren't out on Kindle though. And art books, it varies whether I'll buy the Kindle version or the actual physical version. I think it depends what kind of art it is or what kind of book it is. So if it's one that it just varies. And sometimes the books I'd like I can't get on Kindle version, so I try to buy as much as Kindle editions, mainly because it saves space in the house. And with the art books and things, I can look at them on my big screen, so they're better than the physical version sometimes as well, because I can zoom in and really look closely at things, which is actually really quite good. So I'm whittering on about things like that. So to go back to my friend from my days of research, it's absolutely lovely to hear from her. And I'm sure that when we do get a chance to sit down and chat and catch up, we discover there's quite even more in common these days than perhaps there was back then. Because there was a little bit shared in the conversation, which was interesting, in a lovely way. So I shall look forward to that when it happens, and I'm sure it will. Because if I'm not very good at making contact with people, but she definitely is. So And she's got my mobile number as well now, which is always a better plan to get me to get in touch with me on. Don't home phone. It's only because I have to have it because of the internet. This is more or less done now. There's odd little spots now of the colours needed. Some needed, yeah. I'm going to change it from that brown to a red, just for that little bit of variety. And done that one there in a redder colour, so it might catch up with that one. This I think I'd like in a red as well. This one I'm going to start with red and fade through. Sienna gold. So that sienna gold serves as a nice kind of boundary between yellow and red in many ways. This touch more browny than, say, the golden yellow, because the golden yellow would have worked nicely if I could have found it. Really, as long as I stick to the same one, it's fine. They're so close, it's not going to make much of a difference. It actually works nicely. I like that. So I'm going to do the same kind of thing here, because that red is fabulous against the blue, the red and the reddy orange. They're fab there. They really are. So that reddy orange really plays against the blue nicely. It's the complementary colour thing, which I've mentioned often. It's something that I do tend to revert to in my work quite a lot. When I use bright colours, because it's just something about it, putting them next to each other. It's just vibrancy of colour. They make each other brighter when you put them side by side. I think that's more or less done. I think there's, where is that pesky? Oh, there, sienna gold. Some here, some there. Just need just that little bit, and then that's this particular fish done. Somewhere I do have a set of Inktense paints. I think they come in one set. I think you can buy them in two. They come in one as well, I think. But there are different. They've got some colours that are in the pencils, but the other colours are quite different, which is quite surprising. I think that is all I want to do on that one. This one needs finishing off. But not now. I've had enough now. That sounds awful, doesn't it? So I've had enough. I need another mug of coffee, and I need to get my backside into gear so that I can go and perhaps go for a walk, or at least get some fresh air somewhere. Not that I'm in short supply of fresh air, because all the windows upstairs are open, front and back. So I've got a nice breeze through. But yeah, I think that is where I'm going to leave this for today. I don't know if you remember what this looked like at the beginning, but the colours were a lot paler, which is great if you're into pale colours, but I just wanted bright, weird fish. And my fish really are weird, and I'm happy with that. To be honest, I like them. I do want to scan them in and, as I said, draw vector art for them, vector line art, and then add colour digitally, and the difference will then be apparent, I think, in that, and separate them perhaps. But I also am going to make most use of this piece of watercolour paper by adding little design motifs and elements around these fish. I don't know what yet, but I'll work it out. It'll filter through my head, perhaps when I've had some more sleep, because I'm beginning to flag now. But I just want to be clear that anything I've mentioned, any projects I've mentioned, are just for your information. I'm not paid or sponsored or given free product in any way, shape or form to mention them, because I know that if I don't, people say, oh, what are you using? So I've said, and I've mentioned the colours I'm using just in case. But obviously, you know, I think in Inktense pencils come in a range of 72 different colours. So there's lots of choice there. These are just the ones I went with today, really, or today and yesterday, based on the colours I'd chosen in watercolours to use. And these are a lot more vibrant than the watercolours. So I'm going to say thank you so much for listening. Thank you for joining me on this arty journey this morning. If you've enjoyed watching, listening, please consider giving a thumbs up and subscribing if you're not already subscribed. And I just would like you to take care of yourselves, find time for your own personal form of creativity, and may it let you smile and be at peace. Thank you. Bye-bye.